We are in Champions League, man.
That was my next
Dilly din, dilly dong, come on.
Encara Messi, 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 gol, 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 gol.
Into Sheringham, and Solskjaer has won it.
I will love it if we beat them. Love it.
This is the Modern Soccer Coach Podcast with Gary Curneen.
Hello, welcome to the Modern Soccer Coach Podcast. My name is Gary Curneen. Joining me for this episode is Mark Spalding. Mark has worked on the professional side of the game in Scotland, the senior side, and then he's worked primarily on the youth side here in the US with GPS. He has done his coach education on both sides, in Europe and on the US side. So we wanted to get his thoughts, his experiences, his insights specifically on his progression into the UEFA Pro license with the Scottish FA. So looking at his experience, looking at the experience of where he's looking to get better, where the course has challenged him, and a little bit of reflection. It's something that a lot of coaches I know listen to the podcast around the world aspire to get to the pro license. We don't know an awful lot as a coaching community of what goes on actually inside it. So it's a good chance to see first-hand experience of where a coach is being challenged and what it takes to get through that there. And I think you'll enjoy this reflection from Mark for sure. So we'd love to hear your thoughts on this. At Gary Curneen on Instagram, at Gary Curneen on Twitter. This podcast is brought to you by the Modern Soccer Coach Community Platform. If you haven't checked it out, please go ahead online, take a look. We've got over 250 exercises, session ideas, tactical analysis pieces, and daily content coming with a different topic every day. We've just launched a monthly tactical webinar series that will begin on September 23rd, free to all members of the MSC coaching community. We're going to go through defensive transitioning on the 23rd one. Only $6 a month, you get access to all the webinars and you get the replays, and then you get access to everything on the site as well. So details on modernsoccercoach.com/community. Please check it out. Always appreciate your support, appreciate the coaches getting involved. Here's Mark, enjoy. Mark, thanks so much for joining me this morning on the Modern Soccer Coach Podcast. Really excited to have you on.
Brian, thanks obviously for asking me, Gary. It's an honour to be on and looking forward to chatting.
So the topic is the pro license, and I know a lot of listeners know a lot about it, but not maybe about inside it and what goes on and the journey about it. So I just thought that we'd shine a light on that there. And I wanted to kick it off by asking you, what was the motivation? Why did you want to do the pro license in the first place?
I think it's always striving to be the best. I think everything I've ever done in my career, I've always wanted to be the best I possibly can. And it's obviously the top of the UEFA coach education pyramid. I love coach education anyway. I'm always seeking new ideas and seeking opportunities to challenge myself. Obviously, the prestige of the course, you just have to look at the candidates who have been on it previously, what it means to those candidates, the opportunities a UEFA Pro license can provide coaches who attain it. And then the final one is just to be accepted on the course. Obviously, when I applied, you've got to go through a rigorous process to be accepted. Obviously, there's the financial piece as well. And to actually have, attained a place on the course was an incredible honour and one I was happy to accept.
Yeah, just staying on that then about the process of getting on the course, and I've wondered if there's any continuation. Do you start the course from scratch, or in the application process, or in the continuation from maybe your reputation with the federation before that? Is there any continuation? Do they have any work on you before you actually go on the course?
Yeah, so part of the application was you had to have some references. You obviously had to put your professional career down, so what positions you'd had over the course. So there was a lot of stuff going into your background, and then obviously your background, your experience, your current position, potential of what you can add to the course. I think that all comes through in the application process, and it was pretty rigorous. I think it was maybe 3 to 4 months after application that you start to hear word on whether you're accepted or not. And I know that speaking to the Scottish FA from the emails we were sent out, there's a kind of panel within Hampden who look over all the various applications, and there was a lot of people who applied for the course, and I think there was only 22 places. So, to be part of that 22 is an incredible honour when you think about the amount of people who maybe meet the requirements who didn't get selected on this cohort.
I did look at the criteria, but what interested me was you're obviously going to have people at different stages in terms of what they want from the course. So in terms of what you want to get out of it, or in terms of what your weaknesses maybe they've identified, is there any of that work done as soon as you get there, or is that something that is just a process that's built as it goes along?
No, so actually one of the first meetings that we had was a kind of who are you, presentation, which was pretty daunting because you have to stand up in front of your peers, and you had I think it was a 3-minute or 5-minute clock, and they were pretty strict on the 5 minutes. It was a kind of iPhone buzzer at the end of it. So, you were rehearsing. You could use any aids you needed. Some people used PowerPoint. One of the guys, Paul Sheeran, actually delivered a poem, which blew everybody away. It was really well written. It spoke about his journey, but it was a kind of, it had the rhyme and all that kind of stuff. It was absolutely incredible. Some people delivered PowerPoint. Some people spoke about themselves, and that was really insightful. To learn about your experience, about different people are coming off different things. Some people are just finishing their playing career. Some people are working, as technical directors or have been sporting directors. Some people were just starting a managerial career. So it was different people. But the interesting thing on the first meeting was finding out where people had came from, maybe what they're expecting from the course, and kind of where that will take them.
Yeah, on that subject there, we had one of our guests, Kerry Bowley, who's now working at Man City, the coach education. He had a question this week I thought was great, and I wanted to run this past you on social media. Do coaches invest more time in, one, developing strengths into excellence, or two, fixing weaknesses? And I was wondering what your thoughts were on that, having gone through this pro license.
Probably a little bit before, I would have definitely fixed weaknesses, but strength-based training is something that I find interesting, and it's certainly something that I've started to develop myself. I kind of know what I'm good at, and that's through over time and speaking to people, and there's things that you're comfortable with, and I definitely believe that that I continue to want to improve on those aspects. So my strengths is definitely something that I want to continue to push on in, and I probably now spend more time on my strengths. I'm kind of a little bit more comfortable in what I am and who I am. And that strength-based training and strength-based development is something that I look at. I know what I am, and I want to be excellent in those fields. However, probably maybe before the pro license experience, and probably actually before I moved to the US and started to listen to other coaches. And one of the interesting things was I actually spent a day in at the Boston Celtics and got to speak to Brad Stevens. And speaking to those people in different sports start to open up your mind on coaching as a profession, not just football coaching, but the art of coaching. And certainly strength-based training is something that I personally have started to concentrate more on in probably the last 12 to 18 months, on knowing what I am and really working hard to accentuate my skills in the roles in which I'm in.
As obviously a fan of coach education, do you think does coach education shift from maybe fixing weaknesses early on and then into developing strengths, or does it move in every different direction? Does it depend on the person? Does it depend on the course? What's your thoughts on that? Yeah,
so I think that the coaching process is tutors and education is becoming more and more important. So I think coach education is starting to shift into that holistic approach of developing in strengths, but also looking at how you can kind of eradicate weaknesses, or certainly try to lessen the weaknesses more and more.
It's a fascinating topic. It's because when you start to ask yourself these questions, it obviously then you're thinking, well, what do I spend most of my time on without coach education? Does coach education almost help you structure your reflection, or maybe keep you on track without maybe going down a road where you're not actually thinking of what you're doing?
No, it does. And I think self-reflection becomes incredibly important. And one of the things, and I'll touch upon it later on, is the Scottish FA actually have brought in a kind of sports performance consultant, a guy called Donald McNaughton, who looks at a lot of self-reflection. And we work with Donald as a group, in small groups and individually throughout this pro license experience. And that has been absolutely tremendous, because the first thing coaches do is you're hard on yourself in self-reflection. Say, I didn't do this, I didn't do that. I was really bad at this, I was really bad at that. And some of the stuff that Donald's asking us to do is, kind of looking back and, first thing, what did you do well? And then what did you find challenging? And then what would you do next time? So the connotations is taken away from weaknesses or negativity to actually, trying to look at it a little bit more positively and actually more tangible as well, rather than just saying, well, I didn't do that very well. It's actually saying, well, what did you find challenging? And then what would you do next time? How would you take that and how would you learn from that experience to do it differently next time? Which I think is incredible. And that's certainly helped me.
Yeah, here's one for you. Do you think coaches are more critical upon self-reflection on a coaching course than they are in their normal environments without being monitored or observed?
Probably, yeah. I think it's the delivery in front of your peers, whether people don't go into a course thinking so. You're always kind of judging yourself. You're always judging yourself and you're always saying, where do I fit in here? You're looking at some guys and you're like, wow, I wish I could coach like that. Or you're looking at other people and saying, oh, am I better than him? If it's an assessment thing, if I'm better than him, I might pass. Do I have to be up the upper echelons? And, whether you realise it or not, everybody's forming an opinion. And, one of the things I had it recently, on the pro license, we had a little bit of field delivery and I had an absolute nightmare of a session, right? It didn't go very well. My points weren't great. And, I was absolutely devastated, you know what I mean? Because it's you're out there at that UEFA Pro license level and my course, or my delivery, I didn't think was my best, far from my best delivery, but it's what I delivered. And, I'm pretty sure we all have bad sessions, and sometimes they're better in the confines of your own club with your own players, and sometimes you can hide that. But, other times when you're out there with peers and stuff like that, it's daunting, no matter what level you're at. Sometimes I personally found, doing the B and A and pro license in Scotland, there's a lot of, ex-pros in there. There's a lot of guys who have worked under some fantastic managers and fantastic ideas in the game. And you want to make sure that, first of all, your content's relevant and it meets the requirements of the course. But you also want to show these guys that you can go out there and actually coach and put on a session. And I think that's really, really important. And certainly, that previous experience of mine, over in Italy where I didn't have a good session, self-reflected on that a lot. And, one of the things I did do was try to get peer feedback. I'm okay with people telling me what they found good and what they didn't find so good. And, I look for constructive feedback. I just don't want somebody to tell me that was bad or poor. I was certainly, here's how you can improve and this is what we're looking for. And, here's how you can take that and develop it. And that's incredibly important to me. Self-reflection, peer reflection are two things that I really value.
You mentioned there in the grass, that's another thing that fascinates me with the pro license is, how much of it is still refining that skill of delivering on the grass, or does everything move significantly towards laptops and classroom presentations?
I think you've always got to keep it relevant to the pitch. And I think, we've had assessments, but not assignments on the pitch. The pro license, we've been assessed on our coaching prowess on the, the C, the B, the A. That's where we've been assessed. Now we're kind of getting assessed on club management. So there's a wide variety of assignments, and some of the stuff has been assessments on the pitch. So we've been we've had different presenters come in, and that's allowed us to then go and deliver on the field. So one of the tasks was we're put into groups. We were given a scenario. You're playing away from home, second leg of a cup tie, you're 2-1 behind. The kind of process of how you would maybe structure your final session before the team. That was done in small groups. One of the things that I actually picked up from that was the group I was with I worked with Fraser Robertson, Barry Nicholson, and Danny Invincible. And obviously there's 4 coaches. Fraser was the lead coach. And we actually done a little bit of ghost coaching, which, is a kind of, with the lead coach he's working on the first 11, myself and Barry, we were working on on creating the scenario, replicating that match scenario. So we were working with the opposition shape and their kind of tactical roles to make sure that the game or the practices reflected the environment the players were going in, which was really interesting. That was something new for me, and I really enjoyed working with those guys. Chris van der Hagen came and delivered. He talked quite a lot about reality-based coaching, the Belgian FA methodology. And one of the challenges was there we had to go and deliver on the pitch, like immediately. We had to create a session in groups and then go and deliver a reality-based session, related on the Belgian FA methodology. And you were kind of thrown into that, and Chris gave some feedback. And, so it was really interesting. You get sessions filmed and you can reflect back on it. So there is assignments on the field, but it's the assessments are on all different kinds. The assignments are on all different kinds of topics. Club management. It's really interesting. It's about managing a club. It's taken away. We know you're good in the field. How do you manage staff? How do you manage club? Looking into finance, looking into match analysis, looking into preparing teams, looking into all different facets of actually club management. They're preparing you to succeed at the top end, and you've got guys who have been managers at first team level. You've got guys who, obviously right now, you've got Malky Mackay, Scott Gemmell, two different sorts of experience. Malky's talking about working at Cardiff and Wigan and Watford before that on the staff. He's talking about the level of detail you have to go into to work at the Premier League level. And then you've got Scott, who's the current Scotland under-21 manager, who's talking about the international aspect. The performance environment he created, match analysis, preparing teams in tournament football. So it's like, polar ends of, or two different kind of environments, but high-end, elite level management, coaching, being that leader. And that's the interesting bit. You're actually leading the process.
It's so practical, right? And that's, again, something that I've heard. And I spoke to a coach last week that was on the Irish FA course, and Malky was over there, and he was talking about what happens whenever you go maybe 2 goals down against a good team. And the theory would tell you that, you put more numbers forward and you go for it. But then the practical side that Malky was saying that as soon as you go to 3 or 4-0 down, you should then defend, because when you get to 4-5, then the knives are out in terms of the media. So you have to then, you're living in a world, or it's learning how to operate in a world where there's also pressure, there's also perception, and there's also then the practical side and the theory don't always go together, right?
No, exactly. First meeting that we had, Malky done a presentation on his career. Incredible, started off as a part-time player, worked in a bank, and then moved at Celtic, and then went down and played in England. And he talked about coaching mentors as well. He worked at Watford. There was guys like, Eddie Boothroyd, Brendan Rodgers, Sean Dyche, Dick Bate. Spoke about all that kind of, his coaching process into management. From a coach into a manager, and it was eye opening. It really, really was, because here's a guy who's worked at the highest levels of the game. And listening to his kind of feelings, it was really eye-opening, it was really candid as well and honest. And I think all the course candidates valued that, but it kind of gave you an insight into, here's kind of where you could go, and here's some of the challenges that you will face if you want to get to that highest level. And it's more than just being out in the field. It's, managing up, managing down, managing scenarios, or managing staff, managing chairmen or club owners and expectations and sporting directors. And it's endless. And you're like, and it's a bit kind of, it was a great start to the course, because you're thinking, wow, this is it, and it's a little bit more than, idealistic, this may happen. It's like these are things that do happen, and you've got to be prepared for this. And it's, and I think that's the realism part of it. It's not idealistic. We all want to do things certain ways, but it's like, these are some things that you'll definitely encounter, and some of the things you're going to encounter are like this. And some of the stuff he was saying, obviously, I can't go into it all, because some of it's obviously, between the group there, because some of the stuff he went into was very open and honest, and but it was really eye-opening and really set the bar high. But also on the flip side of that, really educational, and really kind of whetted the appetite, because if that's the intro, everybody's thinking, wow, we're definitely by the end of this 2 year going to improve like massively. If that's one presentation, wow. And we've had numerous numbers of that as well. Like David Moyes came and spoke to us, which was again, the same stuff Malky's talking about. We've done scenarios with David Moyes. David Moyes has put us in scenarios which he encountered. How would you handle this? And it raised debate. People are saying this, that, and the next thing. And then David Moyes is given more in-depth scenarios. And you're like, what happens when your leading goal scorer maybe, breaks a fundamental club rule, and you're in this scenario, and there's no right or wrongs. It's, what you do, but then ultimately what you do then has an effect on, it can have an effect on your environment, it can have an effect on your team. And there was a lot of kind of practical, discussion, but raising debate, and you were answering something, and David Moyes was hitting you with something else, and you were like, one thing, with every single presenter that's came, it's been that way, that they challenge you. You answer a question, and that's not the end of it. They'll challenge you with something else and challenge you with something else. And it's good. I love that challenging environment. Sometimes you feel like after you've answered the question, you think, did I answer that right? But it's your beliefs, and it's, you can only answer that and what you think is right at the time. But having likes of Malky come and speak, Derek McInnes come and spoke about his coaching journey, being at Bristol City, and Aberdeen. It's the level of detail these guys go into is incredible. But, it's the candid and honest nature. David Moyes was talking about, obviously, Real Sociedad, Manchester United, Sunderland, West Ham, Everton. It's high-level stuff. And, it's changes. When you hear these guys speak, it changes your perception of things entirely. Because, you sit sometimes and people assume what these guys do. You can't assume. You're hearing from the horse's mouth exactly what happened, and that changes your opinion, because it's candid, it's honest, it's truthful, and it's what happens in the game. People say, I would do this. You're only looking at one part of it. The thing that you think you would do has multiple different outcomes, and then from those multiple different outcomes, there's outcomes from that, then there's outcomes from that. It's like a domino effect, and that's the thing that blows my mind when you hear these guys speak about pressure environments. They're not running small clubs. These guys are running institutions. And the pressure these guys are under, and the level of detail these guys go in is absolutely incredible. And that's the stuff that gets you excited. But that's also the stuff to realise, I've got a long, long way to go here, and experience will really drive me forward.
In those I can only imagine those conversations and insight from people like that are dealing with the level of pressure is just amazing. So is there anything that you've changed in terms of your methods or your philosophy with that process of maybe getting a little bit of a different perspective, or maybe being interrogated the way you have been?
100%. It's to believe more in your points. It's also to research. Details really, really important. We're always getting asked about details. Give me details. What's the detail into that? To delve into the detail deeper and deeper and deeper. And that's the thing. You can't just go into these sorts of things and be really generic. They're looking for details, like really in-depth research. You're always researching things. You're always, looking at scenarios. You're almost kind of trying to judge the questions that they're going to ask to make sure you've got solutions for that. Sometimes they'll throw curveballs at you. And there has been cases where people have done presentations and it's like, well, I don't know. They may be asking you details about a player, who's his agent? I don't know. All right, well, maybe these are things that you should, if you're talking about record, it's like, well, I didn't think of that, or I didn't do that, and sometimes you learn from your own kind of challenging situations, but you also learn from others as well. When you're up there and you're maybe presenting in front of your peers and you're getting questioned, and one of the assignments in Italy was you had to present to a sporting director, a manager, and a club owner, and it was Malky, Scott, and Andy Gould, who's head of football development at the Scottish FA. And it was me and Stuart Kettlewell. We presented on Spain. We presented our tactical plan for the next game. And they're questioning everything. So we thought a nice, smooth presentation. But they have questioned everything. Right, you got a goal down in 5 minutes. What do you do? And then, even if you're saying something, they're throwing another curveball. And it was interesting. And but you've got some peers round about you. You're up. You've put together a nice, clean, smooth PowerPoint. You've rehearsed it. Me and Stuart beforehand, we're going through. If this comes up, you answer that question. We've tried our best, and they're throwing curveball after curveball. And it's at the end, Mark, he said, "Listen, you guys have done great. I'm sometimes asking you things that I'm not expecting you to answer. I'm not even expecting you to be comfortable, understanding the question. I'm throwing you to challenge you, to see your reaction, to see how you handle these questions. It's always challenging, and I love that about it. They're always challenging you. It's kind of they want you to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And I love that. I love that kind of environment that they've created where, it's okay to challenge people. It's okay to say, it's not detrimental. It's not, people aren't being disrespectful with it. It's just we're looking for more. They're always seeking more information. They want to get to the depths, the detail. And I think that's, I talk about detail a lot, but that's the thing they talk about in the course all the time. You're working with high-end footballers. They want details. It can't be generic. They want to know specifics. So you've got to give them specifics, but give them specifics clean, clear, precise, that sort of thing. On time as well. You might only have 10 minutes for your presentation. You can't waffle. It's got to be clean. So those things as well, I think, are really challenging, but really enjoyable. I think reality-based practicality is really important, especially when you're preparing for the game. That reality-based training, preparing teams reality-based becomes really, really important. And also belief in yourself. If you do the research, you come up with a plan and deliver it. Stay true to your morals as well. Be strong enough to not have your opinion wavered if people are asking you that. If that's your beliefs and you have the detail to back those beliefs up, and you've done the research and you've done the preparation, then support it. But make sure that you've got the answers to support it.
Has it improved your ability or your desire to question more in your own environment, either up or down?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, the process to why becomes really, really important. I'm always, looking for more now, I guess. I'm always looking for more. And to be honest, the coach tutors, I've spoken about Malky, Scott, we've had Billy Stark come in, we've had obviously Andy Gould, Greg Patterson. I'm starting to use some of their techniques as well to get more from my staff. I work under a large body of staff, and using some, challenging them more and more to get the best out of themselves, to get more detail for them to dive deeper into the coaching practice or their understanding of the game or anything, has been great as well. I've enjoyed that challenging environment, and we're starting to create a culture where I'm surrounding myself with people who enjoy that challenging surrounding. And I think it's different between challenging and just being disrespectful. Some people say, I don't agree with that, and that's it. Well, why? Why? What don't you agree about it? What would you change? What's your solution to that? All right, brilliant. And it's actually about respect. It's not about just disagreeing for the sake of disagreeing. It's about maybe finding more detail, and how you word questions, I think, become really, really important as well. How you seek and guide either the person who is challenging or being the person who's maybe questioning there as well. I think, how you word those questions to get depth rather than it be, I don't agree, that's it. Well, I don't think that's enough. It's about what could you do? Why did you do that? You dropped that player in here. What was your reason for that? Okay, and then start to delve in. And I think that's really, and that's one thing the Scottish FA do very, very, very well. They challenge you, but in a really thoughtful way to get you thinking. They ain't going to give you the answers. You're a pro-licensed candidate. They're not going to give you the answers. They want you to find the answers. And I think that's really, really, really important.
I'd stay on that topic. Again, from my own perspective or from my own experience, coach education is now moving it's moving in a great direction in terms of that reflection and that pointing you towards soul searching a little bit in terms of your practices and your processes, etc. Whenever I took a coaching course over here, it was about 2005. It was one of the first ones I did, and the person who gave me the feedback wasn't very personable, wasn't delivered very specifically, and I was actually more annoyed by how it was delivered and the lack of depth that was delivered. So basically, when I reflect on that, the relationship wasn't built before I was getting the feedback. So what you're saying there with the peers and the mentors is that it's delivered in a way that obviously is effective. So how is that relationship built, or how is that process? How does that facilitate it?
I think it was facilitated from day one, where you had every single person delivered that 10-minute talk. So when I talked about your journey as peers, but also the tutors delivered their journey. So Greg Patterson delivered, Andy Gould delivered, and Malky delivered, and that really set the tone. They laid themselves out there, like so many of the course candidates did as well, and that really helped you get where they're coming from and what they're looking for in their role. But also, they facilitate a lot. So it's facilitate discussion. And I think that's really, really important. You can ask them things and they'll give you an honest answer. They give you time. And I think that's really, really important. Every single person in that course gives you time. Whether it, Scott Gemmell as well in Italy, there's some, Donald McNaughton. All these people are happy to give you 5-10 minutes of time. You're saying, I'm not so sure about this. What do you think of that? They give you time. And I think time is all you're ever looking for. You're looking for some, to ask somebody a question, for them to be thoughtful, respectful, and to answer you and to get that dialogue going. And I've found this from the coach education courses I've done in Scotland throughout my time there. I also done some work as a coach education tutor there. Incredible, absolutely incredible. I've had a really positive experience. The Scottish FA courses get a great name for that part. That the tutors are excellent. They really engage with you. They speak to you as a person, really respectful, really, they ask you questions, they guide you, but they can also instruct. And they've created an incredible environment there. It used to be at Largs, now they do it at the Performance Centre in Edinburgh, at the Orium. But they create that environment, and people, you just have to look at the list of people who have come through those courses. Jose Mourinho, Andrew Villas-Boas, Nuno Santos, Espirito, amongst many others. You want to go Alex Ferguson, Walter Smith, all these kind of great names. There was an article on BBC Sport about Largs itself, the Scottish FA courses recently, which was a great read. And I think, they just create that environment where the tutors and the assessors are there to guide you and help you. They want to get you through the course. And I think that's evident, and I think that's really, really important. And so these guys have really created that. I think the other thing that they've done well, there's been a lot of group tasks. So a lot of variations of working with different people, with your peers, different experiences. Every time you come to an event, you're maybe sat next to different people, so they actually have a seating plan. So you check where your seat is, you're sitting next to different people, so you're engaging all the time with different people, and it's great. You're always learning, and I think that's really, really, really important.
We just talked before we recorded. I was telling you that I recently read Fabrizio Pecoretta pro license document. You were saying that you know him very well. He's generously shared it on LinkedIn. If anyone is looking for it, I would highly recommend. It's an unbelievable read, both in terms of the depth of what he says going through the course, but also what I was chatting to you about. He was really honest in the presenters who didn't make an impact as well. So without naming names, do you become a little bit more critical about the course content itself with, as you become engrossed in this journey? Do you then say, wow, no, that wasn't, I need more of this, or I need more of that, or how does that work?
Yeah, I think so. I think everybody's on their own journey. So all the candidates are on their own journey and they're seeking for different things. Obviously, I'm close friends with Fabrizio. He's been a kind of mentor of mine. I met him on the UEFA A license. And first of all, he's an incredible human being. And over the years, we've got to know each other's families. And one of the things about Fabrizio, one of the things I personally like about him is his honesty and he'll give you a truthful response to an answer. And it may, that's not everybody's cup of tea. Some people don't like to surround themselves with people like that. I love it. I remember on an A licence, him pulling me at one point and giving me some really direct feedback on what he felt I could have done better. And I just lapped it up. I just loved it. Again, somebody giving you time. He was a guy who I think had just moved from Swindon to Sunderland at the time in the Premier League, working in the Premier League with international players, giving a young coach at the time 15 minutes of his time to help me. So I think that's incredible. I think, for me, I don't think I try to come away from that critical, but that honesty. I think, everybody's looking for different things. I'm quite honest in my reflections. I kind of look and, if there's been a presenter, sometimes there's been one presenter at the start of the course who his presentation was quite large and he only touched upon something and then moved on to something else. And to be honest, his content was excellent throughout. But there was one thing he touched upon and I was like, I'd have loved more of that. I'd have loved more of that particular thing. But he just kind of went over it in, maybe a slide or two, and I was like, I could have been doing. So in my self-reflection, I was like, I loved when he touched upon that. I would have loved him to have went into more detail on that. And that's not being critical. That was being honest, because my need as a candidate was he touched upon something that really touched on maybe a scenario I've been in or something personal to me. And I was like, that might not have been the same for everybody else, but I was like, I'd have loved him to have went into more detail on there. And there was one presenter who touched upon something that I actually reached out to later on and says, you touched upon this. I'd have loved you to give me some more detail on that. And again, that presenter did go into more detail on that to me, which was great. And so I kind of got what I was needing from it, but not necessarily in that moment. So I think when you're in self-reflection, I think, I've always put at the end of everything, I've put who the presenter is, what the presentation was about, and then what I took from the presentation. And I have been sometimes, I honestly have taken something from every single presentation, because in my mindset, I think you can learn from everything. Even if it's 1%, 10%, 100%, I think you can take something away. It could be the way somebody's delivered something. It could be one thing that they have said you thought, I never saw it like that before. That's superb, or the way they've explained something, you're thinking, wow. But I'm always honest. If there's something that I thought I'd have loved a little bit more detail on that, or maybe they went into too much detail on went away from something, and I was like, they kind of got away from what I was looking for. Then I put that in my self-reflection, and that's only being honest. And I think that's maybe important for maybe Greg and the guys running the course to, maybe there's some trends that they identify from that and they're saying, we need more of that, or maybe. So I think we've always got to be honest with ourselves, and I also like to speak to the other guys and get their thoughts on things. And there's some boys in the course that are really honest, and again I enjoy that.
Yeah, the social side of a coaching course, which is always the biggest part of the learning. The best stories that are in the bars, and 2 a.m, and someone tells a story of a perspective of something that happened, and I would imagine that's been the case for this one as well.
Oh, 100%. Well, first of all, me, Gary, I absolutely love to talk, and I love to talk football. So it's for me, I'm an absolute geek. So I read, I read about things. I would like to think I've got a good knowledge of the history of the game, certain scenarios. I understand, I've got good understanding of games. I can talk about games and what's happened. Staying at the hotel, we stay at this little hotel near Hampden. The discussion, people moving, kind of glasses round about tables. We're talking about experiences. I love it. The insight I get is incredible. I'm always learning, So, for instance, when I was in Italy, I was rooming with Peter Lovenkrantz. I think I must clearly ask the most questions, and people who, whether it be Barry Nicholson, Maurice Ross, Laurie Ellis, guys that I can ask 101 questions to these guys. I think, there's always this bit where I always give it, who's the best player you played against? Best manager? It's almost like an interview, and some of the boys laugh anytime somebody else is there. They're like, you always ask the same questions, because I just love it. I love, who's the best manager that joined in training? What was good about it? And then I get really hung up on it, So I was in Italy rooming with Peter, asking Peter like what it was like to play in World Cups. I've never, how many chances do you get to discuss one-to-one with somebody who's played in the World Cup, what it was like, what you enjoyed about it, what you didn't enjoy about it, what was the coaching like, how do you prepare for games, so many games in such a tight space. He played in the, what was it like moving about, all that kind of stuff. He's played in the Bundesliga. What was that like? What was it like playing in the Champions League quarter-final, last 16 of the champ? Doing all that. Speaking to Maurice Ross, who's went out and coached in the Faroe Islands, and played in Iceland, and played at Glasgow Rangers, played at Wolves under Glenn Hoddle. How many times you get to speak to you hear Glenn Hoddle's great awareness of the game and all that kind of stuff, and what was it like to play under him, what made him different from, for instance, Dick Advocat at Rangers, and Barry Nicholson, who's played in both north and south of the borders, currently working at Fleetwood Town. His experiences. Jonathan Johansson worked as first team coach at Rangers, worked at international level as assistant at Finland. So there's endless numbers of guys. Like John Rankin was at Manchester. He spent a month on loan at Corinthians. Very few people know that. I knew it because I researched it. What was it like playing in Brazil? So getting, how many guys do you know that's played for Corinthians? So again, getting this, and Ranks laughs anytime I give him a question, by the way, because I'm always, I'm always questioning people on things. And so again, but I think when you're in these closed environments, that's honesty as well. What was good about that? Why did the coach do that? How did you set up for that? And it's that honesty and candour you get round about that. Red wine's a particular favourite. There's a few bottles of red wine getting shared, and Italy was huge. Italy, first of all, the red wine in Italy was fantastic, as was the pasta, and as was the ice cream. And Big John Daly particularly enjoyed the ice cream. It has to be said. As did me. I can't lie there. I enjoyed the croissants and whatever else in the coffee. But the banter and the camaraderie, but also the discussion, the meals, the actual travelling to games. You're on a bus. Some of us went on a bus to San Marino from Bologna, which a minibus. We're on this minibus, and people are sharing stories, talking about experiences. We're talking about what it was like to be a manager. What was it like to be here? What was that club like? And it's honest and candour. Two things that I remember, like on the bus to San Marino, we're talking, Liam Fox, who's now a friend of mine, was talking about being manager at Cowdenbeath, a relatively young manager. I think he was 33 or 34. What that was like, what he learned from that. That's the type of discussion that, maybe, and that's the type of discussion we have had on the course. We've had people present on their football journey, what it was like at certain clubs. But it's also that, I think in those closed environments, it's the honesty and it's the candour, and it's obviously they share things in one-to-ones or small groups that are in that closed environment. They can't share on maybe a podcast, and they can't share in the written word because, it implicates others and, it names. But in closed environments, they can share that. And I think that's really, really important. And one of the things that I've been blown away is the humility of these guys, even guys that are played in the top level. It's the humility, and worked and coached at the top level. It's the humility of them. Everybody's learning, and I think that's really, really important. And that's something that's really broadened my mind, is the skill set. I have a different skill set from others. My experience is different from others. It's how everybody uses each other's experiences to develop themselves. And I think I always say to everybody, it's the formalised learning's massive, but the informal learning is even more so. And I think, the Scottish FA's created that environment. They want those discussions. And I think, I've always found that with the Scottish FA courses. And this course has been 100% no different.
All right, last two for you. What's challenged you the most on the course? What have you found most difficult?
Learning a language.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't even know you had to do that.
Yeah, so obviously, trying to prepare us for the modern game. The modern game is, maybe going out, working with players from different countries, learning. Maybe you might have the opportunity to go and play and go and coach in a different country. And I think that was one of the biggest things, was we're learning learning language and actually putting it into practice. So the boys are learning different languages. Some of the boys are absolutely incredible. Some of the international guys like Jonathan Johansson, Scott Calderwell, Arnar, and Peter, bilingual anyway. Obviously, English might not necessarily be their first language, so they can speak various different languages, and I always find it incredible anyway. So learning a language has been definitely probably the most challenging bit, because it really takes you out your comfort zone. And I've been learning Spanish. We have a lot of Spanish speakers who work with us, so I've been trying to engage with them. And it's actually getting over that embarrassment, of mispronunciation, and I don't want to kind of butcher somebody else's language. I mean, I can barely speak English. Never mind, never mind Spanish. But that's been a challenge. The other challenge has been challenged, and by the tutors, by your peers. Getting out of your comfort zone and actually taking on tasks you're not comfortable with. And how that comes across, how you portray that, and how you learn from that. And I think the assignments are tough. It's a lot of work. Italy was incredibly challenging. You're coming in from a game at 9 o'clock. You're waiting on you're making your presentation. You're getting footage on Y-Scout, downloading games, cutting footage, maybe putting some animation on it. Making sure your presentation's clean, smooth, on time. You're maybe doing it in groups of 3, so you're up to maybe 12, 1. You're up at 7 for breakfast. Course starts at 8. Are you maybe getting up at 6 or, to get breakfast early, maybe, meeting up with your group again. Some of the challenges was, right, you're a group of 3, we're going to draw a name at the hat and who presents. So you can't be saying, me and you're in a group, Gary, listen, I'll do the presentation. You just sit back there and chill out. No. We've both got to be engaged here. The presentation's got to be reflective of the group. So you've got to be comfortable delivering that. So it's how that partnership works. Who forms these roles? So it's, Gary, you're out. You're going to present your presentation. So again, all that kind of stuff, those challenging situations, those little curveballs they throw in just to challenge you. They're talking about, who's to say all right, presentation breaks. How do you deal with it? I thought the president, these little things, these little curveballs, they throw you to prepare you. It's that you find really, really challenging, but it's what you'll get most from the course probably.
Yeah, so then we've got a lot of young coaches that listen to the podcast. What kind of advice would you steer a young coach when it comes to coach education?
For me, I'm a big believer in coach education, so obviously I went through my UEFA licenses. I'm now in the process of going through my USSF licensing. I've just recently been on a tutoring course to be able to tutor some of the USSF grassroots instructor licenses, that was challenging as well. So it was almost an assessment to become a tutor. I would say go and do them. I think you can learn a lot from them. And I think, there's two parts of it. There's the formal learning, what you'll take away from the course, the mentors, and I can't be thankful. Jimmy Bone was a mentor of my UEFA B license, and he's a mentor for my life now. He's been an incredible mentor of mine, even when I worked in professional football in the UK. He was always there for me, somebody to lean on and rely on. And I met him do a coaching license. And again, those relationships that can be built. The challenge, coaching licenses are about proficiency. All right, it's like a driving test. You may think you can drive a car, but until you get a test, you can't drive on the road. And I think they set that. They're looking for proficiency. And then once you start to do that, then that's where you can use the skills learned from that to create your own philosophy, to create your own methodology, to create your own style. And then it's how you then go and put that across. And I think that's the additional learning. The informal learning is just what you talked about there. Is getting out and meeting people and making those connections. Those connections are incredibly important because they can open additional doors, not just professionally, but also from a learning environment. So we talked about Fabrizio. He's opened up doors for me to see many different environments. My plan is to go, he's now working at Roma. My plan is to go over to Roma to go and experience, to do a club visit over in Roma as well, to go and see what they're doing at first team level, see what they're doing in the academy, get sat down face to face with the key movers. You don't get that access without good connections. And a lot of the connections I've met are through these courses, speaking to people saying, I can open the door in here, I can get you a one-to-one with this person, I can get you sat down, sharing a resource as well. I think that's the type of stuff that, without making those connections by attending these courses, it's sometimes hard to form those relationships through maybe a message, a cold message on LinkedIn or a Facebook DM, which, don't get me wrong, these relationships can be created by that, but face-to-face as well. Face-to-face connections are incredibly important. People getting a warmth for you. I like to think I'm a people person. I try to get out there and shake hands and introduce myself and, embrace with people. And that, for me, has served me incredibly well. And I think, I agree with you. I think some people say, these coach education, it's all about the money. I still do them because I love them. I see people continually going through coaching licenses who love to do the courses because it sets a proficiency. It allows you to make connections. It allows you to get insight. In the Scottish FA courses, they bring guest presenters in. I remember on my A licence, I had Eric Black come and talk about the role of an assistant manager in the Premier League. How many people don't get that opportunity? Yeah, you might listen to a podcast or you can read a book about it, but a Q&A with Eric Black, a guy who's worked with, X amount of teams in the Premier League, incredible. That was something I would not have experienced if I didn't go on a course. And it's that kind of open environment, and that was something formalised in the course. I think there's an opportunity to get better. I think you take on the feedback. You use that as construction. I don't, some people, and I've seen it here in my current role where people say, I went on this, and you get candidates want to argue with tutors over things. I'm like, just be humble enough, take on the feedback. Take it in. You might only apply 10%, but be respectful as well. Listen to that person, because honestly, that person's not sitting there desperate for you to not succeed. They want you to succeed. Everything they're telling you is to try to help you succeed. And you may not want to apply it all. You may not believe in it all, but be respectful to listen, because there will 100% be nuggets from that where you will learn. It's not about but this and but that. It's about, let them speak and then analyse it and use self-reflection. Especially, it's quite egotistic, coach education. Nobody wants to be told they're doing something wrong. You don't want to be judged by somebody. But embrace it. It's the only way you will get better. Failure is okay. Failure is all right. Or maybe not failure, but not succeeding or not attaining 100% first time is okay. Because you don't want to be there. You don't want to be the finished product. You don't want to be, because the minute you do that, I think, you may as well stop doing it. Anything that you do. And I don't think in coaching you can ever be that finished article. I always think there's always a new trend or something different. And I think you can always learn. And I just think it's the connections from these courses that become friends. And I've met so many people that are course mates who I would consider friends, who I speak to on a regular basis. I ask advice. Sometimes I may be a useful source of advice for them, and I give that advice honestly. And I have probably now friends all over the world who I've met on these coach education journeys and courses. And I always say to people, do it. There is the additional learning, podcasts, reading, actually the practical experience of delivering sessions. Do club visits. I don't see enough people. People say to me, I want to coach pro players, and the first thing I always ask them is, how many pro clubs have you seen in the flesh? How many times have you went off your own back and done it? And listen, as a young coach, I used to volunteer. I used to go, can I pick up cones? Yeah, sure. I picked up, I tell you a story, at Stennismuir Football Club, I used to pick up cones for the first team manager sometimes. I would be coaching the community guys, we'd finish at 6:30, the first team would be on. Could I pick up cones? Now I'm hearing exactly what's being said. Now I'm on. Listen, I ain't delivering anything. I'm picking up pennies. I'm moving the water bottles, But I started to learn, okay, right, how can I get closer to the action? How can I get closer to hearing these things? And I think that's important, actually going to elite environments and seeing it face to face, not open training sessions, because they're sometimes staged. You don't necessarily, but actually getting closer to the field, actually getting out there, getting access. Have you spoke, I want to be an academy manager. Have you spoke to an academy manager? No. Well, here's a connection. Here's how you can, and it's how you make those connections. And that's something I've actually actively done, regularly meeting with people and saying, Lee Heron, who I've met, was at Reading there at Arsenal, met him at the Super Cup Northern Ireland. Lee, we grabbed an hour, heard about his transition from Reading to Arsenal, listening about Arsenal Football Club. Where would I have had that before? Not everybody's lucky enough to have, people say you're not lucky enough to have those connections. I've made those connections. I've stepped out of my comfort zone. I've shook hands. I've followed up on things. I've showed I'm reliable. I'm not looking to be paid for those experiences. I wasn't looking for money. I was paying for that because that's additional. And I think that's really, really, really important. Yeah, the formalised coaching education's vital for me, but also that informal, getting myself out there, saving money up to go to Finland, or saving money up to go to Portugal, saving money up to go to Italy. I've done those things, Spain, I've done those things. And that has helped me even more than the formalised learning. And that's the big thing, I would say. Coach education is, it is important to go and get your B, your A licenses, because that shows you have a proficiency. But the other stuff will shape your thoughts, will allow you to take more on different experiences. And I think that is really, really, really important. And that would always be my bit of advice. Go out, make connections, go and see things. And those connections can be made from formalised coach education, because that was my journey, that was my experience.
What a way to finish it. Mark, thank you so much.
You're welcome. My pleasure, Gary.
Thanks so much to Mark for his time and his insight there. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. It's really refreshing and inspiring to hear somebody who is so passionate about the growth and development. When you go online and social media, I know it influences us way beyond probably what we even think it does. When we're just reading and we're taking in information, there's a lot of complaining and a lot of negativity about coach education around the world, about different courses. And when you formalise education, you're never going to hit everything. The game is so complex because people are different journeys. It is impossible to hit every single person, and every single person is different in their journey. It's impossible to make that unique to every single person on a course. But I do believe that coach education is in a really, really good spot in terms of the different associations, the different federations, the different companies that are now making it more individualised, more personal, more reflective. And in doing the podcast over the past 12, 18 months, I've met a lot of people who are on their journey and going through it, have so many good things to say. And I've also talked to a lot of coach educators who have reached out or who have met in my pathway, and it's been very much the same thing. So I think that it's a good spot. I would urge young coaches to do what Mark says, go through the courses, get the experiences, meet the people. The most common email I get from coaches are, how do I connect with these types of people? And yeah, I can give you their email address. It's not rocket science to find someone. Everyone's pretty accessible online today in social media or on websites. That's easy. I can connect anyone to anyone. But they're not going to know who you are. They're not going to know and get a good feel for you. When you go to people's environment and you go and visit people, you might get a coffee with them. Very, very hard for that there to go both ways. They find out about you, you find out about them. If you're visiting a club, you're typically finding out just about them and their processes and what they do. But for them to find out about you, you have to do that in a course. You have to spend time with people. You have to go and spend the 2 or 3 hours after the course in a restaurant, at a coffee shop, in a bar, whatever it is. All these experiences, that's connecting. That's real connecting. And I wish as a younger coach I had have done a little bit more of that, or I was as aggressive about that and as intentional about that as what Mark alludes to there, because you can see he said it there. I would pay money for that experience. And I think in my journey, I said there that I was a bit disappointed in one or two experiences in coach education when I was younger, but on the other side, I was a bit disappointed with myself in reflection that I didn't probably put myself out there as much as I should have in the courses. So definitely food for thought for, I think, a lot of us in terms of, what are we doing to get ourselves better, and where are we challenging ourselves. Again, I've said it before on the podcast many times, we all think that we're going outside our comfort zone. We all think we're challenging ourselves as much as we're challenging our players, but we're not really. We're not putting ourselves under enough pressure as much as we think, and there's way more that we could be doing. So I think when you get on a course, and even if it's talking in front of people you don't really know, or even if it's talking to peers who are more experienced than you, or maybe it's a big name or two, there's a lot of growth in that there, and I think it's enjoyable then to come through that and to get confident in going outside your comfort zone and travelling and experiencing different things. So I really enjoyed that from Mark, and it was something that I hung up the phone and thought, right, I need to be doing something when the off season comes and get myself better. So definitely impacted myself in that conversation. So as always, we'd love to hear your thoughts. We'd love to hear what you think about it. At Gary Curneen on Twitter, at Gary Curneen on Instagram. I've had a few people reach out over the last few weeks with ideas about future podcasts and future topics, so really appreciate that there, and appreciate the fact that you're listening, that you're thinking of different topics, and we'll be trying to get them involved because there's some great ideas and great talking points. So much appreciated. Please keep them coming. Appreciate you listening, appreciate your support. Have a great week. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to the Modern Soccer Coach Podcast. For more coaching topics, sessions, and resources, head on over to Coach Curneen on Facebook or visit the website at www.modernsoccercoach.com.